This is crazy though, because like I've stayed silent on like my support for George because I didn't want Logan to look bad, but now I'm like supporting one of his enemies now, and how is he gonna take it? But he's partnered with an enemy. But then, oh wow, like let's flip the tables and see how he likes it.
The whole Paul family situation is just so messed up. Like, you can just see how fucking dysfunctional it is.
And maybe put him through what I'm have to deal with all the fucking time. How do you like it, Paul?
These past few weeks have been very rough for Logan Paul because besides getting completely destroyed by Dylan Dennis online while promoting their upcoming fights, now...
Dude, Dylan Dennis was roasting Logan Paul. If you guys didn't see that video, I made a video on it earlier. Go check it out.
Now, it looks like his ex-co-host and ex-best friend, George Janko, could potentially be doing something with Jake Paul on a future podcast. Now, the reason why that's very interesting is obviously because of what could be said about Logan on that episode, but also because it could be the perfect way to show Logan Paul or give him a taste of his own medicine by having Jake Paul work with somebody that had a huge fallout with Logan Paul. So, let's get started.
You have to talk now because I was brought into the mix.
You sure were?
By Jake Paul.
What? Dude. Jake Paul. He's going after his brother now. Because Logan hates George. So I could only imagine like what's going through Logan's mind right now.
Me on to his show.
Yeah.
As a co-host.
Hear me out, bro.
What? As a co-host? Oh man, Jake's going after Logan.
That was really well said, brother.
You know what I mean?
Very
like
eloquent.
if like I have so many, like, you know, there's pros and cons to this shit, right? Like, you know,
And you can tell like George is seriously considering it. And he should. I mean, he would make more money. And it seems like the energy that he's giving, he has a good relationship with Jake, at least for the time being.
First of all, we're doing our own show. We have 3 weeks of episodes already locked in. We have our own path going, right? But then I get invited on. Maybe I shouldn't be a co-host. Maybe I do an episode. Maybe I do 2. Maybe I do whatever the fuck I want. You know what I'm saying? Well, there's so much I have to unpack here, right?
Yeah.
Take your time.
I had my...
This is a podcast. This is, yeah.
We're
Slow
only
down,
10
Turbo.
in. I got rid of everything I wanted to talk about.
Wait, I got a question. Do you feel like Jake is actually asking you to be a co-host? Like, do you think this is a real
So
offer?
a lot of people, you know what I love is that all these people, listen, nothing makes me like giggle more when people have no idea what's going on in my life that hit me up and be like, listen, this is what's happening. I'm like, really? Explain it to me, because I have no idea what's happening in my life. Me and Jake
I hate when that happens.
have never stopped talking.
Yeah.
I very much kept in contact with everybody that I used to keep in contact with. The only one I'm not talking to right now is Mike and Logan. I kept me and Jake's relationship private.
So, I guess they always had a good relationship. I didn't know that.
Obviously, no one was really upset or mad at George for not sharing what Logan Paul did to him, since it's very known, or at least people have said, that Logan Paul has his close friends, even his best friends, signed crazy NDAs. So realistically, he doesn't really have anybody close to him that could come out and try to harm him in any type of way, except for one person, his own brother. Now, it wasn't very clear if Jake Paul was joking, but I'm pretty sure that it will happen, because for one, Jake Paul has said how he wants to grow the podcast and the channel, and if you look at the channel's performance, I mean, there's a huge difference, a huge spike in viewership when he last uploaded that episode. So because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually kept going down the same road, talking about the situation and inviting more people like George Janko and, who knows, maybe CoffeeZilla. Obviously, I don't think that would ever happen.
Bro, if he invited CoffeeZilla on, Logan would be fuming. I mean, I could only imagine how angry he is right now that Jake is considering having George on, because Logan hates George.
But if it did, whoa.
Maybe we should bring George Janko on as a co-host.
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
This is a good idea.
Yeah,
Wow.
let's do
We
that.
should do a George
They even have,
Janko episode, since we're already like, might as well.
Jake even has like a similar setup as Impulsive.
If we're shaking the fucking pot,
Can I get a pot to shake up? He's a really sweet guy. He actually called me yesterday just to like check in and talk about God and like.
yeah, bro.
Really?
Yeah,
He's got the hard-ass
I
song
love the
also.
kid. I love the kid. This is crazy though, because like, I've stayed silent on like my support for George because I didn't want Logan to look bad, but now I'm like supporting one of his enemies now, and how is he gonna take it? But he's partnered with an enemy. But then, oh wow, like let's flip the tables and see how he
Partnered
likes
with
it,
a enemy
and maybe
or
put
all of
him
these?
through what I'm have to deal with all the fucking time. How do you like it, Paul?
Your Paul.
See,
Ouch.
now I'm just going off.
Go off. Come on, talk your shit, man. Yeah, because part of me feels like we didn't really say a lot that should be said. I don't know.
And this might sound silly, but one of the reasons why Jake Paul wants to have George on the podcast is because he is technically Logan Paul's enemy. I know the word enemy might be too strong for this case, but George has said himself that he wants nothing to do with Logan and Mike. And once again, it could be a great way to test Logan and see if he actually cares when Jake starts becoming friends with a lot of people that don't like him. Obviously, there are no laws that say that you have to be in business with your family, and if anything, nepotism can do a lot of harm, but I think their situation is a lot different because when it comes to Logan Paul, he didn't need Prime or the UFC to make all the money in the world, especially since both of those businesses are ran by two people that have openly shared how much they dislike Jake Paul. By the way, we're only 10,000 subscribers away from hitting 100,000 subscribers, so I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps out so much and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I think he was just kind of coming from a place where he's like, and also here's another thing, I sided with George. And dude, I kept my mouth shut the whole time for many reasons.
Why does he have a 1977 shirt? What happened in 1977?
One, first and foremost, I wasn't raised to go and be like, this is what I dealt with. I wasn't. I told people how I felt. That backfired. So then I was like, I'm gonna take a backseat on that. And then there's also the legal issues, right? So there's some people out in the world that are like, was he a piece of shit? Did he take advantage of his friend? Did he do this? And that kind of hurt my feelings, right? I mean, like, because I know who I am as a human being. But I was like, whatever, the truth will come out. I literally said this in a podcast with Howie Mandel. I was like, the truth will come out. Brother.
That wasn't that long ago.
When I wake up, when I looked at my phone and I had like 100 text messages, my DMs are out the app. I'm getting so many notifications on Twitter. I'm like,
now what George said is very interesting and it really makes you think because he did say that the truth would eventually come out and it actually did very quick.
Yeah, as soon as George started talking about, you know, his time on Impulsive and how, like, what he was dealing with, like, I don't know, like, I watched some of it too, and, shit. Yeah, I watched some of it too, and I think it was just the way that he delivered, like, what he was saying, because, like, it just seemed like he was kind of acting like a bitch. But, like, yeah, he just had to let the truth come out on its own. Like, if you're ever going through something like that, and, you know, people don't, like, believe you for whatever reason, if you're not, like, a good communicator, or they just want the full story, or whatever, like, just let the truth speak for itself. Like, no matter what, even if it takes time, the truth always comes out
quickly. And also, every time Logan Paul would publicly trash George Janko, he would get the worst karma in return. For example, Logan Paul rips into George Janko and they get into a heated argument about why Logan Paul thinks that religion is not working for George or that it isn't enough. And then boom, Coffeezilla legit drops one of the biggest, a massive 3-part series exposing Logan Paul. And then when George left the Impulsive podcast and started his own show, Logan Paul essentially trashed them, making negative comments about how George's show wasn't getting any views. And then again, not too long after, Dylan Dennis started completely trashing Logan Paul online on Twitter. And now Jake Paul, his own brother, has decided to come out and speak how he really feels about Logan Paul. I don't know, at this point, if I'm Logan Paul, I would just try to make peace with George Janko and try to keep him as happy as possible. I would not want...
Yeah, I wonder what Logan's going to do. Like, just the way that he's acting and treating people and, you know, the relationships that he has with people, they're just like making his career nosedive.
Want to be on his bad side.
But also, here's my last thing that I want to say about it. I think the way Logan handled Jake's win or loss was disrespectful. But I think that they've came to this situation where their
that shit was super disrespectful.
Private life and their business life and their personal life, it gets blended in together. Now, the situation that Logan's dealing with his girlfriend and Dylan, the Dennis the Menace.
Dude, are those Celsius energy drinks in the back? Dude, it is. Oh, George is petty. George is so petty. That's fucking hilarious. Because Celsius is like Prime's like biggest competitor, and Prime is like what Logan Paul like owns an equity stake in.
And then the situation.
George is a lot smarter than he looks.
With Jake and Logan, to me, are completely different. And then you have your brother. Now, I get you guys. You've had this in your career where you guys go after each other.
He's a little emotional, but he's a smart guy.
And now that I'm kind of like the man out of the picture, I want to say this from a loving heart. Keep it between you guys. Now, I know there's personal things that are.
Don't act like you got a loving heart, bro. We know what you're doing.
Happening between you guys, behind closed doors. If you guys want to make it work, keep it behind closed doors.
And I thought it was a smart move for Janko to mention how he thought they should fix everything in private if they wanted to actually work things out. So that way it doesn't really look like he's starting anything between the two Paul brothers. And at the same time, you're siding with Jake Paul since he mentioned that he also didn't want the podcast out there, and Logan Paul and his team decided to go ahead and upload it. And I guess you can't really blame him for that. I mean, the guy has been documenting his entire life on YouTube and on the internet for a while, like recently when he recorded and uploaded his wedding proposal. And listen, you could argue that Jake Paul has helped out the Impulsive podcast a lot by giving them a lot of content throughout the years. So because of that, it's only fair that Jake Paul does something similar and tries to grow his own platform by using Logan Paul's help, if you want to call it that. And hey, same thing for George, because Logan clearly didn't care when he was ripping into George on the podcast after he walked out on the Bobby Lee one. So I think it's also fair that he talks as...
I'll admit that was a little unprofessional of George, but, you know, I could kind of see where he's coming from, but still, like, you know, you're on a show with a comedian, like, you can't, you gotta have, like, a more control over your emotions, especially when you gotta keep it professional.
As much as he wants about Logan Paul, or whatever he can share.
No, just real quick, no, I think Jake really tried to do what you're saying, though. Like, he tried
No,
to keep it.
I know, he did.
But you could even tell in that last podcast, like, he was so reluctant to talk about Logan in any, even slightly negative, like, way.
Yeah,
But
he had a hard time,
no choice.
yeah.
And honestly, his co-host, Jasper, was kind of, like, almost forcing him to say something.
At the end of the day, I think we can all agree that George leaving the Impulsive podcast was the right choice, and it's actually very impressive. I've mentioned this before, but if you compare...
I think George is the only co-host that's been able to make like a career after leaving Impulsive, because like the rest of the people, Like, I don't even know who they are. I couldn't even name them.
Impulsive to the Nelk boys, naturally you would want to compare George to Steiny. And I gotta say, for sure George is above Steiny when it comes to social intelligence and maybe work ethic. Because even though it may look like a podcast is not a lot of work, it is extremely hard to pull off. Think about it. To get somebody to listen to you for...
Dude, to get a podcast going that people actually want to consume and watch is so difficult. I haven't tried it myself, but I know a lot of people that have. You know, it's a lot.
2 hours and then do that weekly, it's a very tough challenge. However, the one thing that keeps blowing my mind is how much Jake Paul has changed. Because I think you could probably ask a lot of people, and most of them would say that they think Jake Paul is the more mature and more successful out of the two Paul brothers. And
he definitely is. And I was talking about this before, where Logan kind of is feeling threatened or sees Jake as like a threat or as competition to him. Because, you know, to be honest with you, I think Jake is more successful in the media, like internet media space, than Logan. Although they're both doing very well, except for Logan right now. He's taking a little bit of a hit.
Wouldn't disagree much, because obviously if you look up on Google, it does say that Jake Paul is worth a lot more than Logan, but it's kind of hard to trust those net worth things online. But yeah, that shows you how crazy life is.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. You know, check out my other videos. Dislike the video, subscribe if you want to. That would really help the channel out. And until next time, guys.